Welcome to our channel, and today we are uncovering a silent vitamin deficiency that may be weakening bones, slowing muscles, and setting the stage for devastating hip fractures after 65. If you think a broken hip begins with one bad fall, stay with me, because the truth is more unsettling. In the next few minutes, you will learn why this deficiency hides so well, how it quietly steals strength, and what to do before everything changes. Most people picture a hip fracture as one dramatic moment: a wet bathroom tile, a missed curb, a rug that slides at exactly the wrong time. But the truth is, the fall is often just the final scene. The real story may have started months earlier, even years earlier, inside the body while no one was looking. And that is exactly why this topic matters so much after 65. Today I am going to walk you through 3 hidden ways vitamin D deficiency can make a fall far more dangerous, 5 mistakes many seniors make without realizing it, and the simple steps that may help protect independence. Because this is not just about bones, this is about whether your body can still save you in the split second that matters most. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a woman named Margaret, 74 years old, active enough, careful enough, the kind of person who says, "I'm fine, I just move slower now." One night, she gets up to use the bathroom, turns too quickly, loses balance, and falls sideways. But here is the shocking part. The floor did not create the whole problem. The body she fell with may have already been losing strength long before her foot slipped. That is what makes hip fractures so cruel. They often look sudden from the outside, but biologically they can be building quietly in the background. And once they happen, the consequences can ripple through every part of life. Mobility changes, confidence changes, sleep changes, pain changes everything. Sometimes even a person's sense of who they are begins to shift. You may already know this, but it is worth hearing again because the number is stunning. About 1 in 4 adults, 65 and older, reports falling each year. Nearly 319,000 older adults are hospitalized for hip fractures every year. And in one major CDC estimate, 88% of emergency visits and hospitalizations for hip fractures in older adults were caused by falls. You won't believe how many families still think this is just bad luck. But here is the deeper truth. A fall becomes catastrophic when bone is weaker than it looks, muscle is slower than it used to be, and balance can no longer buy time. That is why today's conversation is not really about one vitamin. It is about a hidden chain reaction. And vitamin D sits right in the middle of that chain more often than people realize. So let's name it clearly. The vitamin deficiency we are talking about is vitamin D deficiency. Not because vitamin D is magical, not because every person with low vitamin D will break a hip, but because after 65, vitamin D can affect 2 systems you desperately need to stay independent: your skeletal system and your muscular system. When both lose ground together, the margin for error gets frighteningly small. Here comes secret number 1, and this is where most people stop thinking too soon. Vitamin D helps your body absorb calcium. Calcium is one of the main building materials of bone. Without enough vitamin D, your body cannot use calcium as efficiently, and that creates a problem most people never feel in real time. Bone may slowly become less resilient without sending a loud alarm. Think of it like this. You can have a house that still looks standing from the street, but if the support structure inside has been gradually weakened, one storm does far more damage than it should. That is what low vitamin D can do to older bone. Not always dramatically, not overnight, but steadily enough that impact becomes more dangerous than it looks. And if deficiency becomes severe, the problem can go beyond ordinary bone thinning. Adults with true vitamin D deficiency can develop osteomalacia, which means the bone becomes softer than it should be. That may lead to bone pain, tenderness, and weakness. Now stop for a second and think about that. A skeleton that feels normal to you may already be less prepared to tolerate the sideways force of a fall. But wait, because that is only the first layer. If this were just about bone, the story would already be serious. But the real reason this matters goes deeper. Vitamin D is not only helping your skeleton, your muscles need it too. And that changes everything about how we think about hip fractures after 65. This is secret number 2, and it may be the most overlooked part of the entire conversation. Muscles rely on vitamin D for normal function. When levels stay low over time, muscle weakness can creep in. Not dramatic movie scene weakness, the kind that whispers, the kind that shows up when standing from a low chair suddenly feels harder, when stairs feel steeper, or when walking speed quietly drops. You might be thinking, but I can still walk, so I'm probably fine. That is exactly why this deficiency hides so well. Most people do not notice the first signs because the changes feel like ordinary aging. A little slower, a little shakier, a little more tired. But here is the shocking part. Those little changes may be the difference between catching yourself and crashing to the floor. Picture the mechanics of a stumble. Your foot clips the edge of a rug. In that instant, your body needs rapid muscle response, leg strength, balance control, and enough core stability to pull you back into position. If those systems are slower, weaker, or more fatigued than they used to be, the body may not recover in time. So now the danger is doubled. Bone takes the hit, but muscle may have failed to prevent it. Remember when I mentioned Margaret? Her problem may not have started on the bathroom floor. It may have started when getting out of a chair became harder 6 months earlier, when her legs felt heavy after a short walk, when she stopped going outside as often, when a subtle loss of strength blended into the story she told herself. I'm just getting older. And this is exactly where families get fooled. They wait for a dramatic symptom. They expect deficiency to announce itself with something obvious and unmistakable. But vitamin D problems often behave like a thief, not a siren. They take a little here, a little there, until one day the body has much less reserve than anyone realized. Now let's move to secret number 3, because this is where the puzzle starts to fit together. Why are older adults especially vulnerable to low vitamin D in the first place? The answer is not laziness. It is biology. Aging skin produces less vitamin D from sunlight. Many older adults spend less time outdoors. Some have darker skin, which reduces vitamin D production from sunlight. Others have medical conditions that make absorption harder, so a senior can be eating reasonably well and still fall behind. Someone can feel responsible, health conscious, and careful, and still become deficient. That is why this issue is so important. It hides inside normal routines. Maybe you no longer walk outside every day. Maybe your digestion changed. Maybe you gained weight. Maybe you had gastric bypass years ago. Maybe you sit near a sunny window and assume that counts. It does not. That window myth catches so many people. Light comes in, the room feels bright. You feel warm, and the brain says, I'm getting sun. But here is the truth. Your skin does not make vitamin D through a window the same way it does from direct sunlight. That one misunderstanding alone may leave many older adults overestimating how protected they are. You won't believe how often small assumptions create big biological consequences. And now we come to the symptoms, or more accurately, the lack of dramatic symptoms. This is one reason low vitamin D can be so dangerous. You may not get a flashing warning sign. Instead, the body gives whispers. Less strength standing up, slower walking, more aches, less endurance, more fear of falling, a strange sense that you are aging faster than the calendar says. The truth is, a lot of seniors normalize those signals. They think, of course my legs are weaker. I'm in my 70s. They think, of course I ache more. That is life now. But what if some of that change is not just age, but biology that can still be supported? What if one of the body's hidden advantages is quietly slipping away and nobody is checking? Let's do a quick pattern interrupt here, because this may save someone years of confusion. Falling is not just a balance problem. It is not just a bone problem. It is not just a muscle problem. It is the moment where all three collide, and that is why vitamin D becomes so important after 65. It touches the structure, the power, and the recovery system all at once. Now I want to reveal 5 mistakes many adults make when they hear about vitamin D. Mistake number 1 is waiting for pain severe enough to prove something is wrong. By the time the body is screaming, you may have already lost valuable time. Prevention almost always feels less urgent than treatment until the day treatment becomes unavoidable. Mistake number 2 is thinking a little random sunshine is enough. 10 minutes one day, none for 4 days. A few errands in the car, sitting near a window, then assuming the body is covered. But vitamin D status is not built on wishful thinking. It is built on consistent exposure, consistent intake, or careful supplementation when appropriate. The body cannot use what it never truly receives. Mistake number 3 is assuming food naturally takes care of everything. This surprises a lot of people. Very few foods naturally contain substantial vitamin D. Fatty fish like salmon, trout, tuna, and mackerel can help. Fortified milk, some fortified plant milks, certain cereals, egg yolks, and mushrooms exposed to ultraviolet light may also contribute. But here is the catch. For many older adults, reaching the target consistently takes intention. Adults from 19 to 70 generally need about 600 IU a day, and adults 71 and older generally need about 800 IU a day. A single cup of fortified milk often gives only about 120 IU. Do you see the gap? This is why vitamin D is easy to underestimate. You can eat fairly well, feel fairly responsible, and still not consistently reach what your body needs. Mistake number 4 is the opposite extreme, and it may be even more dangerous. Some people hear that vitamin D matters, then decide more must be better. So they start taking huge weekly doses, massive monthly doses, or multiple supplements at the same time without tracking the total. But here is the shocking part. Too much vitamin D can become harmful. It can push calcium too high and lead to nausea, confusion, dehydration, kidney stones, kidney problems, and even heart rhythm issues. That is why the upper limit matters. For most adults, 4,000 IU a day from all sources is considered the upper limit unless a clinician is actively supervising treatment. And this is where common sense has to beat internet hype. Bigger is not always stronger. Faster is not always safer. In medicine, the body usually rewards consistency far more than recklessness. Mistake number 5 is treating vitamin D as if it is the whole solution. This is a big one, so stay with me. Even perfect vitamin D does not make a slippery home safe. It does not correct poor vision. It does not automatically strengthen weak hips or reverse osteoporosis on its own. It does not review your medications. It does not remove a loose rug from the hallway. That is why some people take a supplement and still miss the real prevention strategy. Remember when I mentioned the body's margin for error? That margin is protected by more than a nutrient. It is protected by leg strength, reaction time, bone quality, medication safety, lighting, footwear, handrails, and confidence in movement. So yes, vitamin D matters. But the truth is, fracture prevention after 65 is a team effort inside the body and inside the home. Now let's talk solutions, because this is where fear turns into power. If you are over 70, think in terms of that 800 IU daily baseline, unless your own clinician advises differently. Build vitamin D into habits, not good intentions. Foods can help, fortified products can help, and supplements may help when used reasonably. But the key word is consistency, not panic, not guesswork. Consistency. There is also a small detail many people miss that makes supplementation smarter. Vitamin D is fat-soluble, which means it is absorbed better when taken with a meal or snack that contains some fat. That sounds tiny, but tiny details are often the difference between a supplement you own and a supplement your body actually uses. You won't believe how many people take vitamins perfectly on schedule but poorly in practice. And now we need to talk about muscles, because this is where prevention gets exciting. If you want to reduce hip fracture risk, you cannot just focus on the bone that breaks. You must train the body that catches itself. Chair rises, walking, step practice, resistance bands, light strength training, and simple balance work are not optional extras after 65. They are protective medicine in motion. Here is a question for you. How easy is it for you to stand from a chair without using your hands? How steady do you feel turning quickly in the kitchen? Can you balance on one leg for a few seconds while holding something stable? These are not vanity questions. These are independence questions. These are early warning questions. And this is where it gets deeply personal. Many people fear falling more after one close call, and that fear changes how they move. They go outside less, they walk less, they become less active, their muscles weaken further, their balance gets worse, the body becomes even less prepared. Do you see the trap? Fear can quietly feed the exact outcome you want to avoid. That is why a smart prevention plan should also include the environment, better lighting, clear pathways, shoes that grip, handrails where needed, grab bars in the bathroom, rugs secured or removed, frequently used items placed where you do not need to reach dangerously. But here is the shocking part. Some seniors will research supplements for an hour and never spend 10 minutes looking at the floor they walk on every day. Medication review matters too. Certain medications can increase dizziness, drowsiness, or instability. Vision changes matter. Hearing changes matter. Even dehydration matters. Hip fracture risk is rarely one villain wearing one name tag. It is usually several smaller threats arriving at the same moment. That is why people who think broadly often stay safer than people who chase only one solution. Now let's answer a question many viewers are already asking. Should everyone over 65 rush out and demand a vitamin D blood test? Not necessarily. Routine testing is not automatically recommended for every generally healthy older adult. But that does not mean vitamin D status is irrelevant. It means the decision should be individualized, especially if you have osteoporosis, recurrent falls, bone pain, muscle weakness, limited sun exposure, digestive disorders, or a reason your clinician thinks deficiency is more likely. That nuance is powerful because health is not one size fits all. Some people need more evaluation, some need more support, some may need treatment that goes well beyond an over-the-counter bottle. The goal is not self-diagnosis. The goal is to stop ignoring a silent contributor that may be weakening the body behind the scenes. Let me give you another example. Picture a man named Robert, 78, proud, independent, hates asking for help. He has not fallen, so he assumes he is low risk. But over the last year, he has stopped taking walks, gets winded faster, uses furniture to steady himself, and avoids stairs when he can. Nothing dramatic. Nothing dramatic until it is. That is the point. The body often announces trouble in small print before it ever uses capital letters. If Robert hears this message early, the story may change. He may add more consistent vitamin D intake. He may ask whether his medications are affecting balance. He may start simple strength work 3 times a week. He may improve lighting in the hallway. He may take the loose mat out of the bathroom. And suddenly, the future is not guaranteed, but it is safer. That is how prevention works. Quietly, then powerfully. You won't believe how many life-changing health decisions are actually boring on the surface. Consistent nutrition, consistent movement, consistent home safety, consistent follow-up. No drama, no miracle. Just repeated decisions that preserve the body's reserve. And after 65, reserve is everything. Reserve is what lets a stumble stay a stumble instead of becoming surgery. Remember when I mentioned that a hip fracture is not just about a bone? This is what I meant. A broken hip can steal more than mobility. It can steal confidence, routine, sleep, appetite, social life, and that precious feeling of being able to trust your own body. For some older adults, the fracture is painful. For others, the greater pain is what comes after it: dependence. That is why I want you to hear this next line with all the seriousness it deserves. Most hip fractures do not begin with the fall. They begin with the biology that made the fall dangerous. And one of the most overlooked parts of that biology is vitamin D deficiency, because it can weaken bone, weaken muscle, and reduce the time your body has to save itself. So what should you do after this video? Start with 3 simple actions. First, take vitamin D seriously enough to be intentional, not obsessive. Second, train your muscles and balance like they are part of your insurance policy, because they are. Third, make your home prove it is safe rather than assuming it is safe. These 3 steps may sound simple, but simple is often what keeps people independent. And here is one more truth most people never get told. The body does not usually collapse all at once. It drifts. A little less muscle, a little less resilience, a little less confidence, a little less movement. Then one small event reveals how much has already changed. That is why waiting for a dramatic sign is one of the most expensive mistakes older adults make. So let me ask you something directly. Have you felt weaker getting out of a chair lately? Have you started avoiding stairs? Do you walk slower because you are afraid of losing balance? Have you ever had a fall that changed your confidence, even if you were not badly hurt? Those questions matter, because they may be telling you something before the next fall does. If this message is hitting home, that is not a reason to panic. It is a reason to act while you still have choices. The truth is, aging is real, but helplessness is not inevitable. The body changes with time, yes, but some of those changes can still be supported. Some can still be strengthened. Some can still be slowed. And that is the entire reason this conversation matters. So let's bring it all together. Vitamin D may help support calcium absorption. It may help support muscle function. Low levels may quietly erode the structural and muscular backup systems older adults rely on every day. That is why this deficiency matters so much after 65. Not because it explains everything, but because it may influence so much more than people assume. I want you to remember Margaret. I want you to remember Robert. I want you to remember that their stories did not change in 1 second. Their risk built quietly. And if risk can build quietly, protection can build quietly too. One better habit, one stronger leg, one safer hallway, one smarter question for your doctor. One more layer of stability before life tests it. Take care of your bones, yes, but also take care of the muscles that hold you up, the balance that protects you, the home that surrounds you, and the daily habits that either strengthen your future or weaken it. That is the real lesson here, and that is the part so many people miss until it is too late. If this video helped you, tell me in the comments your age and whether you have ever had your vitamin D checked or whether a fall has ever changed the way you move. Share this with someone over 65 who still says, "I'm fine, I'm just slowing down." And if you want more practical science-based guidance to protect your health as you age, stay with this channel. I'm Dr. Liana, and I will see you in the next video.